There we go. We are live. It is Thursday here in California. I hope everybody is having a wonderful Thursday, or maybe it's Friday morning in Australia. Love these days. So enjoy talking to the people of stand-up paddleboarding. We have a great one today. Robert Stehlik is joining me from Hawaii. He does lots and lots of these interviews himself. And makes all kinds of videos and has not just one, but now multiple stores and a brand, kind of involved in pretty much every aspect of stand-up paddleboarding in Hawaii, and was in early. Thrilled to have him join us today. I am right now. Again, lives in Oahu, although I understand he now has a sub place in North Shore too. How are you doing today?
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You're usually on the other end. You are Mr. Video Content. I've always admired that about you. Knew you early on, and from like the industry days, used to always tell everybody, nobody makes more videos about absolutely everything to do with stand-up, and you've kept that up and kept current. And I know you do interviews and lives and all kinds of tip and how-to videos, but we'll talk more about that. One thing you're not, though, is boastful. I love that your bio wasn't really about you. It was about the great stuff that you've done. But I want to start with your story. Where did you first see stand-up? Were you a waterman before that? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into stand-up.
Okay. Well, how far back should I go? But I guess, like growing up as a teenager in Germany, I got into windsurfing. And that's kind of where, or I don't know, before that, I loved body surfing as a little kid. I like just jumped, swimming in the ocean and getting thrown around by waves. I always loved that. So I don't know, it's kind of in my blood, but I got into windsurfing, and then my dream was to go to Hawaii. So like after I graduated from high school, I saved up some money, went to Maui, and just kind of fell in love with it. But I lived on Maui for a year. Then I went back to Germany to go to university, and only lasted like one semester. And then
you had gotten a taste of it, huh?
Yeah. So I ended up back in Hawaii and then never looked back. It was kind of good for me to do that, because then I never felt like I was missing out on anything in Germany after that.
Yeah. And not to reveal your age or date you, but you were there early in the whole hub of what was happening with with windsurfing. There was so much going on in Maui, and so many of the roots of windsurfing are there.
Yeah. So that when I got to Maui, it was kind of the late 80s, which was kind of the height probably of the windsurfing boom, and where they had like the Aloha Classic with over $100,000 prize money and stuff like that. And I was just I thought, oh, I want to be a windsurfing pro and stuff like that. That was my dream. But I realized that it's very hard to be one of the top people where you can actually make a living with the sport. So I kind of did the next best thing and kind of got into the industry, I guess. But yeah, I studied at University of Hawaii, or first on Maui for 2 years at the community college, and then went to UH Manoa and studied business. And kind of part of my classes, I had to do a marketing plan and a business plan. And so that was, I ended up making a business plan for Blue Planet. And, it was kind of more just like a class project. And then I was like, well, might as well try it. I'm young, I have nothing to lose, so might as well give it a go, And then I've been doing that. And, that was almost 30 years ago in 1993. So
wow.
Next year, it'll be 30 years in business. So, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Congratulations. I had no idea you had been in business that long. So was it windsurf focused at the beginning, more wind sports or surf?
It started out kind of more as a clothing brand, we made, originally the first product was a t-shirt, and then more t-shirt designs, just like, surfwear basically. And then we made shorts locally here in Hawaii. And I kind of started selling them at the swap meet. Like we have this, Aloha Stadium flea market basically set up a tent, and we're selling stuff. And but we had some wholesale customers too, but I just always ended up with extra clothing, and I was like, what do I do with this stuff? So I started selling it at the swap meet, and then we had a really good customer in Japan that did really well with the brand, and then
Wow.
we opened a shop, and then and then I realized, oh, the hard goods is kind of easier. It's easier to sell one board for $600 than 100 T-shirts for whatever. So we started not selling more bigger ticket items, and then started distributing Boardworks boards, which that was before they made stand-up paddle boards, just like surfboards, longboards. Originally, they had a factory in Czechoslovakia. And I went to visit it and stuff like that, and that was kind of interesting to see how those boards were made, kind of similar to the surf tech construction. That was, in those days, most boards were custom made, hand glassed and hand shaped locally, and then the more and more people started using epoxy boards and realizing that lighter, stronger, and then that kind of grew, and I was selling a lot of surfboards for Boardworks, and then they got C4 Waterman. They signed basically a contract to make their boards, and that was kind of one of the first brands here in Hawaii that actually had production stand-up paddle boards available. And we were the distributor, so we got like our first shipment of stand-up paddle boards, and I was like, well, if we're gonna sell them, then I got to learn how to do it. And
okay, that is definitely a first, that you came about it from the business side of it, that you're going to be selling these things, better figure out how to use them and how they work. But what year was that? Because C4 Waterman, one of the first names in there.
Yeah, I think it was 2007 is when we first got the boards, and basically, actually, even before the first shipment arrived, I was already trying it out on some of the before that it was all custom boards. A lot of people were using like big longboards, like the Surf Tech had like a big longboard. The tandem boards but they were still only like 26 inches wide and like 12 foot long or whatever. So not easy to ride. But and then I was just fortunate to have the C4 Waterman guys basically teaching me like some of the early pioneers of the sport.
Did Todd Bradley live there, or is he's an island guy, right?
Yeah, they all lived here on Oahu. So and then we did, when the boards came in, we did like clinics where we let people try the boards, and Dave Parmenter would give like a clinic for people to learn. And I was like, oh, the J stroke or whatever, reverse J stroke and stuff like that. And then they basically were like, oh, you want to try to do a downwinder? So I went on downwinders with them and learned kind of how to read the bumps and be patient, or not just paddle all the time, but time it and stuff like that, and learning to read the bumps, and I really got into that, and I realized that it's not just only about surfing, but also like just the paddling and going long distances and stuff like that.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. I mean, you put your business degree, that's amazing that it was a class project to kind of develop this that became your life's work, and 30 years in business, shop, brand, that is just absolutely fantastic. I'm lucky enough I have met you before, and somewhere probably in the industry, but mainly I remember my first Hawaii Kai run was with your Wednesday night group, is it? Like
That's
that,
right,
I think has been going for years, and Jeff Chang, and of course, Mr. Sweet, my favorite,
John Sweet. Yeah, he says hi, by the way. He works in the shop. He's just working right next door.
I miss those guys. Say hello.
Yeah.
But it's so cool that you've had that tradition going for a long time. And a lot of us who aspire to get to Hawaii, I've still never paddled on Maui, actually, but I did M to O, got my shirt on as a relay. But our first experience was to go out with this core group that have been doing that Hawaii Kai Great Downwind run for years and regularly. And you guys made it look so easy.
Yeah, that's the goal. Make it look easy, but still go really fast, right?
Yeah. And I've been to your one shop, but let's talk about that. You've now expanded to 2 on the south side in Oahu, in Honolulu.
Yeah, so I mean, we went through a lot of changes during the pandemic. One thing, it was like the Wednesday training group, we kind of had to stop doing it because of COVID, So it was like the longest running stand-up paddle training group, I believe. Like, I think we started in 2010, and was running all the way till the pandemic started. So over 10 years, every week we met every Wednesday, either doing a downwinder when it's windy or just a time trial when it wasn't windy. And then, you know, Jeff Chang and I were coaching it, and he's just always been a great training partner too. He's like so knowledgeable and an excellent athlete, you know, especially for his age. He's like 10 years my senior. So, and he still beats me a lot of times in races and stuff like that. So he's pretty amazing. And then I've had, you know, a lot of good people to train with. There's always like new young guys that just kind of are super fast. So just doing that training group once a week has always kept me in shape. But like, since the beginning of the pandemic, I kind of haven't been doing it as regularly. So I got to get back into it if I want to do well in races anyway. Yeah. But
well, how amazing that you've been able to balance all this in the business and having the brand and the stores and everything.
Yeah.
And you have been a very active paddler yourself, which again, I think it's funny that you didn't even mention that in your bio, because you're a very good racer and lots of different types of paddling. But that definitely does show through in the videos. And you also have a rental place in that darling town on the North Shore.
In Haleiwa, yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I didn't get to that. But so during the pandemic, there's this shop in Haleiwa that I've been friends with them for a long time. Like they've been in business about as long as I have been, and like early on, they were selling our clothing. You know, we kind of met through friends, and they, you know, started selling Blue Planet clothing at their shop, and over the years, then they started selling our boards and everything else. So. And I was like, back then I was like joking. I always loved that location. You know, they were right on the river in Haleiwa, right by the bridge.
Yeah.
And like, it's this old, like more like, it looks kind of more like old houses. It was built in 1920s, you know, so an old general store that they turned into a surf shop. And I was always joking with them, like, oh, if you ever want to retire, you know, let me know. And I would love to have this as our shop, you know. And, you know, I guess he always remembered that. And then when, like, during the pandemic, they had to, you know, they shut down their shop, and they had like some personal issues, and they wanted to move to Florida. So he called me. He's like, "Oh, you know, Robert, you know, you still want to buy my shop?" You know? So, and then and they kind of wanted to do it quickly. Like, let's do it. And like, we want to be out of here in like 30 days. So can we do that?
Wow.
So it was like kind of crazy and hectic and pretty stressful, but we worked it out. And then yeah, like that was last August. We took over the shop in Haleiwa. And there's like a really nice launch ramp right into the river.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Water.
I have rented from them before. I think that's one of the most cool locations, because you can go completely flat water, go around the corner and go up the river and see the sea turtles, or you can go out and surf right there. They have a nice little break, or at least when I was there, you could do both in the same session. That doesn't happen in a lot of places. And that iconic bridge that you go under that you see so many pictures of, that is great. I'm so glad that you, I'm sorry for them that they had their issues, but how lucky that they remembered that you wanted to buy it and that you did, and that you made it happen.
So yeah, so far it's been great, and you know, I love the spot. And like one of my employees, like we kind of had to lay off during the pandemic, and he's just been working like doing deliveries and stuff like that for us. But then he's like, I want to manage the shop, you know. So then I was like, okay, well, I've got a manager, and so we got kind of like everything kind of came together, and it's been really good. And yeah, like you said, that spot on the river, it's like you could almost not ask for a better place to stand and paddle. There's like lots of traffic there, a lot of people, visitors. It's really easy because it's calm and smooth water. Like beginners can paddle there, but yeah, if you want to do something more advanced, you can paddle out to the ocean. So, and it's just kind of like almost a nonstop stream of people coming through there.
I bet that's a great busy spot. And people listening, if you go to Oahu and are on the North Shore, that is the place to paddle. Again, because there's lots of options, so you get the whole family out. Well, that's so great that it worked for you. Not to get too heavy into industry, but what a tough time for you guys, retailers and manufacturers, and you're in both. And from supply chain issues and getting your boards to staffing, but it sounds like you're doing okay with that, because I know a lot of places are understaffed, but they're so frustrated with wanting to deliver boards now that it's really popular, but not always being able to do that. Are you doing okay on those things? It sure sounds like it.
You know, like, I mean, we've had all those supply issues too, but I mean, on the demand side, like during the pandemic, we were just killing it. Like, and luckily we had stuff in inventory, and we had, you know, like we were able to you know, kind of double our shipments, and our sales went up like double or triple even during the pandemic. Like it
Wow.
was kind of totally unexpected. You know, we had to shut down, we were closed, and you know, had to furlough people and stuff like that. But then, like pretty soon, like within a week or so, like you know, people were just calling like, oh, can I, you know, can you deliver it? You know, even though we were closed, like, you know, there was this like it's huge demand, you know, because people were furloughed, or you know, they had time and they couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't
They wanted to
travel.
get up.
So, you
Right.
know, what do? Buy a stand-up paddleboard and go paddle. You know, it's safe, and it's and like you were allowed to go to the beach. You weren't allowed to go to the beach, but you were allowed to go across the beach and go into the water. You know, so that here in Hawaii, we were still allowed to go in the water. So that was kind of the only way you got to, one of the few ways. I mean, so surfing, stand-up paddling, any water sports related
Any
thing.
water vessel,
You
yeah.
know, and of course, you know, bikes, shops, and stuff like that. It's just like the demand was just crazy. So we
Oh,
actually
well,
did.
how great that you were set up for it and had inventory
Yeah.
and that it worked for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So like we're like actually for us now as actually slowing down. Like now that people are back to work, everybody's fully employed and busy, and you know, maybe worried about the stock market or whatever. Now it seems like it's it's slowing down for us especially in terms of big ticket sales and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
But it does seem like you've always been really good at pivoting, and you paid attention to what was happening there and got that inventory out and found ways, even though your shop was closed, to deliver. And I think that's kind of what is, unfortunately, it's a lot of work for you guys, but pivoting again. Okay, now that we have these new people who, you know, maybe they haven't had their lesson yet, or they don't know about races, or they don't know. So how do we move them into the next level and get them in here to buy more clothes and accessories and things that they couldn't get during the pandemic? So I hope it still continues to work for you really well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I always make it work, you know. So that's the thing about like when things change, you have to adapt, right? And I think that's kind of as a leading a company, you just have to be kind of you have to make the change, you know, like not just follow everyone else, but kind of try to stay ahead of the curve. You know, that's kind of what I mean, actually for me, it was kind of I think energizing to have like all that stuff going on. I kind of got way more involved in the business again. Kind of before I was more like sometimes just let my staff run it and be more on autopilot and stuff like that. When the pandemic hit, it was just kind of like, okay,
You needed to jump in.
Again. Yeah, so.
All hands on deck. Yeah. Well, you had a couple of questions come. It's funny, as knowledgeable as you are, these are somewhat silly. The first question is, who looks like he could be your brother and lives in Southern California? I assume, since there's no answer, it's from the person who sent the question. Do you know who it is?
Oh, no, I didn't see. I don't know. Who is that?
Kevin sent it in. Do people say you guys look alike? Crone?
Oh, Kevin Crone. I guess, yeah, he's definitely kind of a look-alike a little bit, yeah.
I know you both and had never thought of you guys as twins, but I'm guessing he thinks that. Hey, Kevin, that was pretty funny.
Kevin's a great guy. I've known him for many years. He always used to come to visit us in Hawaii too.
Yeah.
So.
And then Dan Novak from Unsalted in Lake Michigan, he's curious about your name. As you were just explaining, you're German, or you were born in Germany, but you mentioned Czechoslovakia, and he says your family name sounds Czech.
Yes, it is actually. Yeah, Stehlik is a Czech name, and I don't really have any family there. You know, they immigrated to Germany a long time before I was born. But I guess there's a town in the Czech Republic where that's where our
everybody's name is Stehlik.
Oh,
that's kind of cool. Hey. Well, maybe you might be related to Dan in Michigan too, because he has a Czech last name, or he is Czech.
Could be.
Yeah. So let's talk about your YouTube channel, because I don't know anybody with 39,000 plus followers. You have been so consistent in delivering good media, and video didn't used to be as big as it is now. I mean, were you into photography or videography early? Did you have like special cameras? I mean, I remember, my kids are grown, but like the giant video cameras of what would that be? The 90s?
Yeah. I'm pretty much self-taught. Like it was, but yeah, I kind of realized video is like an easy way to share things. And I had like this little camcorder, And like one of my first videos was how to strap a board to your car in 30 seconds, because people were always asking like, oh, how do you do that? You know, like, can you make a video so I can do it too, like, because it's hard to explain, in words.
Yeah.
So I made a video in our shop and post, like, then I figured out on my Mac, like iMovie, just to make a video out of it, like with the templates and whatever. And it was pretty simple, but then, yeah, just seeing the traction it got, and then, so we kept posting videos occasionally, like, just, every few months or something like that. And then,
So was it kind of just coming from in your shop, what people were asking? Like, I don't know how to put this on the car. I mean, there's such simple, important questions that everybody had. And it was a new sport when you were doing it. It's independent. So often I know I had to go looking for people to figure out how to paddle, because there wasn't a place to take a lesson when I started, even years after when you were doing it. So,
So, I mean, yeah, it was just kind of like, simple questions that you get asked all day long. After answering it 10 times, you're like, oh, maybe I should make a video, so I don't have to explain it over and over again, So that was one motivation. And then, at one point, like, somebody from YouTube contacted me, and she's like, well, let me give you some pointers on how you can grow your channel and stuff, because you seem to have pretty good traction. And she's like, one of the things she said, like, you want to be consistent, like, to get followers, you have to, like, post on a regular basis. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll commit to doing it once a week, So every week we started posting, and so it kind of is a self-imposed deadline, but every week we come up with a new video, and so I always have to.
Well, I love that they reached out to you to try to help you. So before that, were you just posting and not worrying about the numbers, and it was just sort of our organic growth?
Yeah, I mean, it was still cool to see it, like, but like they gave me, like, that lady gave me some really good pointers, and like kind of just following that, and like just the putting in the description and certain keywords and this and that, and then it just kind of started, like, especially in the summer. Every summer I saw like a peak in the how many people were watching them, and then more and more people came into the shop, like, oh, I saw the videos and this and that, and so I'm like, okay, well, it's good marketing for our shop too, so. And then just, especially then seeing like which videos got traction, like especially like the kind of real simple beginner tips and whatever, that those are the ones that were the most popular. So we kind of always tried to put out more content like that, and simple things really, and there's no stupid questions. So I always answer all the questions that people have on YouTube, like, so.
Oh, that's fantastic. So everybody watching, if you have any questions, you just might get a video made to answer that question if it's not already out there. But there's
or just write a comment. Yeah, I mean, I think we now have like over 600 videos on YouTube. So
wow.
We already made a video about it. But like,
there's a pretty good chance, right? Search the station and it'll already be there. Eddie says he took his dark horse out on our local reservoir in Santa Cruz just this morning. Is that the name of one of your boards?
yeah, for sure. The dark horse model, that's a good one. That one, we actually designed it for a shop in San Francisco called Blue Rush,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
absolutely, remember them. And David Velasquez from Texas is saying hello, Robert, or aloha, excuse me.
Aloha.
Aloha. Oh, and your Halaweas, the guy you were talking about, is probably on right now, it looks like, because there's a Blue Planet Haliwa. I'm not saying that right, sorry.
Oh, Haliwa, yeah. That's our shop.
A bunch of hellos, sorry. The scrolling wasn't working, had to get back to that. So you yourself, I assume in all these years of paddling, even though you're busy with your business, you've been a few places. I know you race and have done probably multiple channel crossings. Have you been other places outside of Hawaii too? And what are some favorite paddles, whether races or just other type?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've traveled a lot for stand-up paddling, and it's great to be able to do it kind of as a business, so I can actually write off those trips. But like one of my favorite races was 11 Cities Tours in Holland, where you get on a boat and the boat kind of follows you around, and you're paddling around the countryside in Holland, and at night the boat is parked there and you just sleep on the boat, and then they always go to the next place. And so it's really cool. And it's like you go through 11 cities, and it's like a multi-stage trip. I mean, the first day was brutal and like onshore wind for like 10 hours or something like that, but totally exhausted, and then but then they have like massage, get a massage afterwards, and you get fed, and it's just like also everybody on the boat is like living together. Basically, you're living with all the paddlers, and it's just like a really cool experience.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. On my bucket list, but like you said, like got to develop some calluses to do that one.
Oh, yeah, it's a tough race
mentally
for sure.
and physically.
Yeah. And then I've done the California 100, which is a really cool race down the Sacramento River for 100 miles in one day. So you're going with the current, so it's kind of cheating, but still being able to do 100 miles in one day is kind of cool.
I wouldn't call that cheating. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then what else? You know, like we did a Menta White boat trip for, you know, for Blue Planet. That was super cool. Like just being on a boat, and like they would motor at night, and then in the morning you just hear the anchor drop, and then you wake up and the sun's rising, and there's like a perfect surf break outside every day, new place. So that was pretty amazing trip. Just a lot of traveling and logistics. That part wasn't that much fun, but
yeah. So do you run trips? Is that a pretty common thing?
That was more like a marketing thing, you know, for like a photo trip and stuff like that with our team riders. But yeah, we actually haven't done anything like that since then. It's just very, very expensive and complicated. And so, but, you know, and we can do, I mean, living in Hawaii, it's like, you know, why do we travel for like 40 hours to find ways if we can just drive for like an hour and have, you know, pretty much waves year round here in Hawaii. I mean, we're pretty lucky here, you know.
Yeah, certainly something to that. So I know you are a great instructor and you're out there, but I assume as your business has grown, you've trained a lot of people, and like you said, had your staff out there, but it sounds like maybe you've jumped back in even more to the training and coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot of private lessons, you know, like back when we were on Ward Avenue close to Ala Moana Beach Park, I would do like private lessons. But since then, you know, like now I don't really do the lessons myself anymore, but I'm like a P-SUPA certified instructor trainer. So I do instructor training classes, you know, so, you know, not regularly, maybe every 3 to 6 months, I do like an instructor training class. So that's fun. I enjoy that. And we actually did it over Zoom too. Like the classroom part is like a Zoom class, and then there's one day on the water practical class. And so
yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw you had just had a group go through, and I would guess post pandemic there'll be more interest in that. So I'm glad to see a group that's still really active. I know it used to be Rob Casey, and now it's the couple down in Mexico are like helping run it. Yeah. A lot of great people associated. So I'm glad you guys are keeping it up, because it's, you know, we can still discuss like exactly what curriculums need to look like, but getting anything instead of just going out there and calling yourself a SUP instructor without especially the safety knowledge and some basic knowledge of how to paddle and is super important. So good for you for doing that. Great.
Yeah, I do enjoy that. Actually, we have one coming up on June 11th if anyone's interested. And I do the instructor training on the water. We do it in Haleiwa right there, by the Rainbow Bridge on the river. So
wow, that sounds like a really good reason to go to Hawaii. I need to go get trained.
Yeah.
And actually, I was happy
David
to see
Velasquez. He's I just saw him. He said the P-SUPA training was awesome. Yeah, he did the training online with us at the online class, and then he couldn't make it to Hawaii for the in-person class, but we did the video.
Yeah, but good for you. Again, you have been a master at pivoting and finding what people need and filling those holes all the way along the way. So that's fantastic. So the stand-up paddle scene, before we get into, I know you're always at the forefront, so I know there's foiling and winging and all kinds of things in our discussion, need to be a part of our discussion. But how about the race scene? I saw like M to O is not officially back, but there's an unofficial one. And I understand, you know, things are still tight with Molokai, but I did see from Maui, I keep calling her Claire's race, like is going to be a go. So you have some stuff coming up, and Paddle and Mua is back too. Tell us about what's happening with Hawaii and are things coming back in the race scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think, definitely the races are back. I'm actually going to Germany in end of June, early July, so I'm gonna miss like the biggest race of the year here usually is the 4th of July, the Hui race. which is like, you know, in the past, I think some of them had like over 600 paddlers in some of the races, you know, so that's always a really fun one. I'm going to miss that one. But then, yeah, then there's the, you know, Maui to Molokai. That's probably the most fun downwind race there is, I think, because it's just a nice downwind run all the way. It's a really long, I mean, it's like 28 miles, I want to say. So it's almost as long as the Molokai to Oahu, but it's kind of more just a straight downwind run, and it's much faster, like than the Molokai to Oahu. You know, the first 3/4 of it is fun, but then the last, I mean, you know, yeah, the last 5 miles is just like hell, going paddling through quicksand and rough water and getting bounced around, and just you're so exhausted, and it's just like a real, but you know, that's kind of what makes it challenging. You know, it's just like that. It's probably the most challenging race there is. You know, the Molokai race. I would say Molokai to Oahu. But yeah, this year it's not happening. We did have a virtual edition. So
Yeah.
that was fun, and actually that was like the biggest Molokai race ever, right? The virtual one, because people could join all over the world and just.
And they set that up well too. Like our whole training club did the half. I forget what they called it, but you could do a 16-miler instead of a 32-miler, and that was really doable for those who hadn't done a distance race before. And we had a great like in person, but not in Hawaii race out of it.
Yeah, no, that was great, and I think like for people to just be able to join it from everywhere without having to travel to Hawaii and spend that much money and all that, but still be kind of part of it, you know.
And I think it makes it even more aspirational to get there to Hawaii to do it, because I did tons of virtual racing, and it just made me, I can't wait till get out of this. I haven't really done Paddle Imua, but I did it virtually, and I want to do it in person one day, hopefully. So go back to Dahui, because I don't know that much about that one. I don't know where people find, like where you register for it and where it is exactly. Hasn't it been running a long time?
Yeah, so that race started as a prone paddleboard race, you know, like lay down prone paddling. It's in, you know, 4th of July is the middle of the summer, so all the North Shore hardcore surfers, in the summertime there's no waves, so they start prone paddling. So they started that race, and it's become became the biggest prone paddleboard race, and then they added the stand-up paddle division. So then, you know, everybody like that, you know, and when was that? Maybe 5 years ago is probably when it peaked. Like there was, you know, everybody that got into stand-up paddle would do the race, even with like soft tops or whatever, you know, like, and they have so many different divisions too. They would have like a surfboard division and a 12-foot division, 12-6, 14 unlimited, whatever, you know. So and then I think they even had like a wooden surfboard division, like, you know, for prone paddling, all kind of like you know, handmade wooden surfboards and stuff like that. So all kinds of cool divisions. And then so everybody would just show up, and people would paddle with their dogs or their kids on the boards and stuff like that. So it's a fun race.
So it's not a super long one, is it? Right there in Honolulu?
Yeah, so originally it was Sunset. No, it's on the North Shore, so it's Sunset Beach to Waimea Bay, which is pretty short. I think I've done it in under 40 minutes, you know. But then they added the long course, which is from Turtle Bay to Waimea. So then that's a longer race.
What a beautiful stretch of beach to look back on now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful coastline, and you're just paddling along there.
And to know you're going through places that are usually huge breaks that are, you know, famous, but during the summer when it's flat would be pretty cool.
Like Sunset Beach in the wintertime, you couldn't launch there, right? So in the summer it's pretty, and then Waimea Bay is completely smooth and flat in the summer, and, you know, in the winter there can be huge waves. And then then you land on the beach, and you have to run up the steep sand beach in Waimea. Like that's part of it. Like you have to like run up the hill, and then that's kind of a lot of times where some people are like running super fast, and other people are just like crawling up, can barely get up the hill, you know. So I don't know. It's just a fun race. Yeah, that was always one of my favorites too.
Oh, that's really good. Cool to hear, and glad to hear races are coming back. You are the tip man, so I don't even know which category to ask you tips on. I mean, how about some of the most commonly asked questions? What are some tips? We have SupConnect. There's all kinds of people. You recognize names on here. Hi, Shay. Shay's in Hawaii.
Yeah, that's cool.
But we often have beginners, or sometimes people who haven't even stand-up paddled before. So
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things is like balancing, like,
Mm.
just like yesterday, we sent out a group of people that have never paddled before. Like we get these tour buses and people just show up and like, oh, I want to stand a paddle board. And, sometimes they're like, pretty heavy people, or, like kind of out of shape and stuff like that. And it's like, then you kind of have to go back to the very basic stuff, like just like how do you stand up and find your balance and stuff like that, But I mean, I guess one of the tips is just to, look forward instead of looking down, right? So that's
Mm.
everybody that if you're looking down at the board or at the water, it's really hard to find your balance. So, but as soon as you kind of get up and look forward and you know, look at something steady, that makes it a lot easier than.
And it is so important. And we have people race training who are still looking down, and
Yeah,
need to be looking forward for so many reasons. So
yeah.
that's a great one.
And it's really just I guess like your body kind of knows how to balance, but if you try to think about it, it's like it doesn't work, right? Your brain is too slow. You have to let your nervous system handle it, and that's kind of how. And just finding your balance can be hard. Like also when like when you're on a narrow race board in rough conditions, like if you lose your balance, it's really hard to get back into that balance mode, right? And that even for very advanced paddlers, like sometimes you just lose your sea legs, right? And then like trying to get back into that where you just let your body find the balance, and kind of it's just sometimes a mental adjustment to that you have to make, and actually just calm yourself down, breathe, and find your balance again. So that's probably one of the cool challenging things about stand-up paddling, I think.
Yeah. Cool and
And
challenging. Sometimes
yeah,
people, I've had some friends move to sit down paddling because of that. But I like what you just said about your brain. Sometimes your brain's, you got to stop thinking so much about it.
yeah,
Let your body take over. I think some of the people who I've seen be the challenge at the beginning, there's different shapes and sizes, but sometimes it's the most physically fit, like a giant football player type who's so used to muscling everything and instead of relaxing and letting loose a little bit, sometimes they have the most challenge with the balance.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny. I always say that it's like men usually overestimate their abilities in terms of stand-up paddling and finding their balance, and women kind of are much more humble and kind of usually underestimate their abilities. Like women seem to naturally have just better balance to start with. Like for people that are doing it for the first time, usually women have an easier time for some reason. Yeah, women have better balance,
Yeah, it is
maybe
interesting. Well,
lower center of gravity or something too, but.
mm,
But yeah, like women are usually like, oh, I need a really wide, stable board because they're kind of like for women, I'm like, no, you don't need that. You can use this one. But for guys, they're like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. Like I want a 26-inch wide race board. I'm like, okay, then I usually take like a 30-inch wide board that I go on, and then once they fall in 10 times, I'm like, okay, you want to try this one? Maybe that might work better for you, because like you just have to kind of anticipate that, like a lot of men type overestimate their ability, I find, and where women are kind of more the opposite way.
yeah, interesting. There's another question here. David Velasquez wants to know if you found differences in training men and women. Well, you just mentioned one of them maybe is their perception, but at all
Yeah.
levels. Any other thoughts on that?
Um, Differences in training. Yeah, I mean, I think women have an easier time with balance to start with. But women, I guess for women, it's more about technique and finesse. They don't have that muscle power as much. I mean, not to say that women aren't powerful paddlers, but and I think that actually helps because you have to, focus more on the technique, and that's ultimately where you can make the easiest improvements. Really, if you improve your technique, you can go like 10% faster, and to go 10% faster by training or increasing strength or endurance, that takes like months and months of hard training, versus maybe just making a small adjustment to your technique, so you can have the same results with much less effort, I think, if you improve your technique.
Yeah,
And that's
good
another
point.
tip actually on, like, so I put this paddle here. Like I see a lot of really strong paddlers, and they bring their paddle down into the water like this, and they bring all these air bubbles, and there's like, and then they pull really hard and there's all kinds of bubbles and stuff like that. So I think one big thing is getting a good clean catch, like kind of putting the paddle more in without disturbing the water and then pulling. So you get a nice catch and grabbing the water better versus just slipping through the water, you know. So that's, I think, just an easy way. However you apply the power, it's like without a good clean catch, you're not gonna propel yourself forward as efficiently as when you get a nice clean catch and kind of hold on to the water without slipping through the water. So.
That's a excellent tip for any level, and it improves your efficiency and your glide per stroke. And yeah, couldn't agree with you more. That's one of my, lately, I think, coming out of the pandemic and these new paddlers who, there's the usual stuff, which still seeing a lot of paddles backwards and that type of thing, but also seeing them only using half their blade or just really splashing around or only arm paddling. So they need to they need to watch your videos or take a lesson from you.
Exactly.
So we have to talk about, again, you've stayed on the cutting edge, and you can see that from your video channel and all those 600 plus videos that you've made. Talk about some of the newer, being an early adopter, you know, that it looks like your company makes not only the equipment, but you're out there trying these things too. What have you seen? What do you like? What's popular?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I really got into wing foiling, so that's what I do the most right now is just get wing foiling. But the way I got into it was like, you know, seeing, like, I mean, I'm sure you saw those videos of Kai Lenny on a big race board, just kind of like foiling on bumps, you know, like doing a downwinder with a foil, and I was like, oh my God, this looks amazing, you know, like. You know, before that, foiling was always like, you know, ski boots and behind a jet ski at Jaws or whatever. It's like, I'm never going to be able to do that. You know, it's like kind of not even thinking about that. But then when I saw that video, I was like, oh, that looks amazing. You know, like just surfing bumps forever, you know, like I want to do that, you know. So then that's how we kind of got into foiling. Jeff Chang, I was like, yeah, let's try it behind my jet ski. And we tried it on this, you know, like a kite foil that was like a high-speed kite foil. And we're just like crashing and burning and hurting ourselves. And we were like, oh my God, this is super hard, you know. But then, you know, we got the right, you know, figured out the right equipment, what we need. And then, I started making foil boards and foils. And then we started, you know, I was doing a lot of stand-up foiling, you know, just catching waves and stuff like that. And then, you know, then the wings came around and we were doing like the downwinders with the foil boards, you know, foil downwinders. But it takes so much effort to get up on foil, especially when the conditions are kind of marginal, like to get up on the foil and stay on the foil and ride the bumps. You know, a lot of times when you come off the foil, you might be paddling for a long time with this huge foil under, and it's kind of like paddling with an anchor on a small board out in the middle of the ocean. It's not really that much fun until you're up on the foil. So anyway, so then when the wings came around, we were like, oh, let's try a downwinder with the wings. You know, instead of taking the paddle, we just took a wing, you know. And, you know, it took us a while to figure it out. But then I was like, oh, my God, this is awesome. You know, I can just be on the foil the whole time, and I got power when I need it. But if I don't need it, I can just hold it, like, next to me, and I can, you know, then I got more into surfing waves with it.
Yeah. So was that a pretty easy, you were a windsurfer in the 80s and 90s. So was it pretty easy transition? How does it compare not having a mast, having that free in your hands?
So, I mean, it's definitely an adjustment, but I mean, having that windsurfing experience helped a lot, I would say, you know, like just knowing, you know, where the wind's coming from and how to hold the wing in relation to the wind and how to jibe and tack and those kind of things, you know, made it, having that experience made it a lot easier to learn it. But, you know, but anybody can learn it. I think the hardest part is probably learning how to handle the foil first.
Yeah. So that's what, so tell us if somebody wanted to try these things, what's kind of the progression? Where would you start if you had your options? What type of, where would you learn to foil first? What's the easiest place, do you think?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would say, like, you know, stand-up paddling is a really good stepping stone, I would say, because anybody can get into it, you know, with the right equipment. I always say, like, if you can't stand-up paddle, it's probably because the board isn't stable enough for you, you know, like anybody should be able to stand-up paddle. I mean, if you can get from your knees to a standing position, then you should be able to stand up paddle with the right equipment, you know. So anybody can do it, and then that's a good way to kind of get into water sports if you don't have any experience with water or paddling or surfing. But then I would say, like maybe, I mean, definitely take a lesson to learn how to foil. It can be dangerous, because like when you're on a regular surfboard or stand-up board, when you're falling in, you kind of try to save yourself until you hit the water, basically. Like if you're surfing on a wave, you try to see if you can get back up. But on a foil, that's kind of, you want to do the opposite. Like as soon as you lose your balance, you want to bail out, because otherwise you're gonna, like, the foil comes this way and you go towards the foil if you try to save your fall, basically. So your instincts don't really help you, but so I would say, take a lesson, go behind a boat or a jet ski.
Behind a boat.
And just learn how to handle the foil. Learn the foil handling first, and then just on the beach, learn how to handle the wing. Like it's like two separate things. I compared it one time to juggling 3 balls with your hands and then standing on a balance board at the same time. It's like, it's good to kind of do, you don't want to do both things, learn both things at once. If you never used a stand-up a balance board, you practice on that first. You never juggled before, then you juggle without standing on the balance board. Then once you're good at both, then you try to put it together. Like you don't try to do everything at one time.
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering why I don't see people winging on a regular, like a windsurf board. Or, I mean, you'd need a center dagger, right? Or
oh, I mean, you mean without the foil? Yeah. No, that's a good way to learn how to handle the wing. I mean, that's Jeff Chang does the wing foil lessons, and like basically he does that, basically teaching people how to foil behind a jet ski, like slowly getting up on a big stable foil. And if you do it right with good instruction, most people can do it in one session. They can figure out how to ride a foil behind the boat, but it's not exactly the same as doing it, on a wave or with wind. And then for the wing, first you practice on the beach, then you practice on this big stand-up paddleboard with a center dagger board. And he uses like Slingshot has like a stick-on center board or center fin that you can just stick on a stand-up paddleboard, and that'll help you kind of stay upwind. If you use a regular stand-up paddleboard with fins only in the back, you tend to just kind of go straight downwind, and then it's hard to stay side, upwind. So yeah. But that's a good way to practice then, how to go sideways to the wind, back and forth, maybe jibing and stuff like that. And then once you're comfortable doing that on a regular board, then you can try to put it together.
Well, between you and Jeff, it sounds like, and the Pasupa, however you pronounce it, training, everybody needs to go to Hawaii within the next month. Good stuff going on there. So you've been a lot of places. How about some place you haven't been yet? Is there any place you haven't paddled or enjoyed the water in the world that's still kind of on your bucket list?
Oh, so many places. I mean, yeah, I've been to a lot of places, but one place I've never been to is Tahiti. I've been wanting to go to Tahiti. India, actually, like maybe not so much for stand-up paddling, but that's kind of one of my places that I want to go to at some point soon. And there's actually somebody from India that contacted me a few times, like inviting me to come stand-up paddle in India. So that might have to do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I assume you will take good videos while you're there so we can all enjoy it.
Yeah. And then, this summer I'm going to be in Berlin, visit, kind of for a family get together and high school reunion. And then there's actually a few people I've met through, online and stuff like that, wing foil in Berlin. So if there's wind while I'm there, I'm going to try to wing foil in Berlin, probably do some videos.
Yeah, there might even be some on. I saw Deutschland, somebody from stuff. Yeah. And Germany has a really strong, all kinds of paddling going on. I know a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I mean it's stand-up paddling is pretty big in Europe, still. I mean the racing scene and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It is good stuff. Yeah. All right, so you are involved and have done so much for us. So I wanted to thank you and mahalo, first of all, for all you've done as a shop, as a brand, as a producer of videos, helping us all learn. It looks like you yourself have had an amazing, how many years now? 15? More than that, maybe, on a stand-up paddleboard, and all the different offshoots of it. So again, if anybody's in Oahu, there's now two locations in the Honolulu area, and then up on the North Shore, There's a place too where you can find Blue Planet. Somebody in here, sorry, I lost track, loves the board behind you. I don't know which one that is. Is that the dark horse?
This is actually a foil board, but it
It's a
kind
foil
of has
board.
the right size to be behind me while I'm sitting down.
Got the logo and everything.
Right back at you though, in terms of like producing a lot of content, and thank you so much for everything you do for the sport. You know, like
Thanks.
yeah,
Well,
great job.
hopefully we keep it having fun. That's a huge part. I love that term, Pauhana, like the after work and the joy of, and the Blue Planet. What a great name that you chose early, because it has so many different meanings, but our blue mind and being addicted to water. Thanks for helping many, many people get out there on the water. And thank you. I'm loving what I'm doing. This isn't, you know, SupConnect lets me do this, which is super fun because I don't have my own platform, but all good. And hope to see you sometime soon. I really do want to get back to Hawaii. And
Yeah.
I love Oahu, but the fact that I've never done a Maliko run is like a crime, I think.
Yes. Yeah. That is an amazing run too. Yeah.
Yeah. Or M to M.
Yeah.
That you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
So
any parting thoughts about, you mentioned you have a course coming up. You have all kinds of places when they're on Oahu to be able to rent or buy equipment. I think somebody from the East Coast, Jack Egan, said he bought a board from you when he was there. Oh, Eddie wanted to know if you have a Kickstarter campaign coming.
Oh, good question. I have this, I actually have a product that I've been meaning to put on Kickstarter for a while, but it's actually more related to our balance board, and it's like a standing desk stand for your computer that you can use while you're using a balance board, you know. But I've just been slacking on that. There's just too many other things, and it's not. Yeah, it's just a product that's a little bit different from what we usually do. So I don't know, but yeah, there's too much stuff going on.
Well, good for you. I love all your innovations, and keep that coming. And yeah, balance board while working sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good way to.
Good for us all in so many ways. Well, thank you again, Robert. Be well. Enjoy. What are we? We're still in May, almost June. Hope you continue to have all kinds of success in your business and your life.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who's watching.
Yeah. Remember, this goes immediately to IGTV, and then we will get it recorded out on YouTube, both SupConnect and mine, KT Outside. And who knows, maybe a piece of it will show up on the very famous Blue Planet Surf YouTube.
Yeah, we'll post it too. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Take care.
You too. Aloha.
Thanks, everybody. Aloha.
Take care.